Welcome to another edition of Showtime with Coop. Insightful BS with Laker teammates, NBA legends, and sometimes it's just Ari and myself. And today that's what you're going to get, but you're still going to get an earful because we always bring good eargasm to Showtime with Coop. Ari, how are you, sir?
Great, man. I love the way you say that. That's good. And you got to hear from some of our fans of the show while you were out signing autographs. So that's pretty cool too.
You know what? The fun part about this, Ari, is that, when we do this, you're in your place, I'm in mine, and whoever the guests that we bring on, we just talk. And we hope that people are listening, but they are. I didn't know that. I was at a signing in Chicago, and a Boston Celtics fan, well, he was from LA, but he lives in Boston, and he comes up to me and he says, "You know what, Coop, I listened to you and your guy Ari, and you guys are so insightful, and you're funny, and you guys tell the truth." And so he had me sign a picture for him and his son, and then I stood up and took a picture with him, and he says, "Coop, do you think if I go get a basketball that you could put 'fuck the Celtics' on it?" And I was a little shocked, but I said, "Hell yeah, come on, go get the ball." So I ended up just signing F blank blank K, and I think you got what they meant on that. And I mean, he loved it to the fact, but it was just an honor and real exciting to me that people do listen. This is kind of like underground radio, don't you think, Ari?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I love, even though you've had, we've obviously had Cedric Maxwell on, and you've buried the hatchet with some of these Laker Celtics guys like that. I mean, I can't say it enough, man. That rivalry defines the NBA, and as much as you'll diminish it at times, or defer from it. I mean, it is, you think about how popular the NBA is, and it is only on its way up for more and more popularity. I mean, it goes back to you guys building the foundation of this thing.
And that's what I'm starting to realize, Ari. I'm starting to realize is that what we did back there, it was a fleeting moment of greatness, but it has lasted and sustained and has built this big snowball, if you want to say it, using an analogy, rolling downhill to where it's only getting bigger and better. And some of these guys, you see them out there now, and we'll talk about the big three in a minute, but some of the guys will talk basketball, and even those guys, Mario Chalmers, Joe Johnson, they still give us that respect, because you've got to figure that some of the coaches are Rick Barry, George Gervin, Rick Mahorn, Dr. J, Steve Mix is Dr. J's assistant coach, Gary Payton. These are all the people that started the blaze the trail for these guys. And it's nice to be recognized, but it's even more nice when the fans recognize it and really pay homage to us in a sense of getting the NBA to where it is today.
Well, and it's funny because the guys you just mentioned, way better NBA players historically than any of the guys in the big three
in our mind. But so let's start this off. We'll talk, as we said, about the big three, mentioning those guys there. The big three is on the rise, man. It really is. And it's a shame that the Olympic Committee or whoever the powers to be couldn't let our championship team into that, because we'd kick them guys' ass, man. I'm telling you, I watched that 3-on-3.
Why don't they?
Pardon me?
Why don't they?
Well, I can't really give you a true answer. I'm gonna just say that I don't think that they wanted to allow it because it wasn't NBA sanctioned in a sense. So I think that may have something to do with it, but that's just my assumption on why it didn't happen.
That makes sense.
They have to let it happen, because if you're gonna have big three, and the Olympics is about the best sport event for the world, you're excluding that team. And Joe Johnson and the group they got, the triplets that Lisa Leslie coaches, that won the championship last year and are now 4-0 in the league going forward, are I don't think any of the teams that won, any of the teams, especially the USA team, men's team, could have beaten this team here. This team is real solid and it's professional, and they play hard, man.
Well, and look, with all due respect to Joe Johnson, who was a really good scoring player, I mean, he was on a lot of bad teams that didn't win anything, right? So I'm glad he's finally winning something.
Hey, anyway, I look at it like this: any way you can get a championship, baby,
right?
Get one.
Absolutely. And he was on a lot of bad teams, or mid-tier teams, for a long time.
Well, Joe's averaging 29 a game,
and dude can fill it up. That was never a problem for him.
Our ultimate goal point-wise is 50 points. He's averaging 29 for his team. So he takes a lot of pressure off his teammates. All they got to do is score, 19 points, 20 points, something like that, maybe a little bit. to win the game. But, it is truly a great league. This week, we're going into our 4th week. We leave tomorrow to go to Chicago. We were supposed to be in New Orleans for like a doubleheader thing down there, but because of COVID, the procedures that are happening down there is on the rise. They really did a great job of changing us and keeping us playing. So we fly into Chicago, and Thursday we play in Chicago, and then Saturday we play in Milwaukee. And things are happening so fast. I don't know if it's Milwaukee first and then Chicago, but we're going to be there. We're landing in Chicago. We're staying in Chicago and driving or whatever. But if you're out there and you're listening, we're going to be in your city this week, Thursday, and Saturday. You're going to get some great games. You get to see, like I said, the triplets are 4-0. Jackson, what's his name? Steven Jackson. Yeah, he's a big time player in the NBA. He is now a coach for Trilogy and has a very good team. They're 3-1. Speaking of,
what's your record?
We're 1-3. We're just the opposite. I wish we could change that around. It was a typo and move that 3 in front, but we're 1-3, and we're struggling and we're having a hard time. This year I have Mario Chalmers, DeMar Johnson, Drew Gooden, picked up Ryan Hollins in the draft, and then we drafted a guy named Jeremy Pargo. They reduced us by 1 player this year, so everybody has 5, except the triplets who won. They have 6, but they can only play 5. So, we had some tough games, lost a tough game the other day against Doctor's team, who has Nate Robinson and Jason Richardson. And Jason didn't play, but Nate was there, and they had brought in some guys, and it was just a debacle. But, we're going to get fired up, and we're going to be charged up.
In all honesty, how much coaching do you do in there?
You know what? It's really not a lot of coaching because it's 3-on-3. I mean, you want the guys to go through some things, but it's more like I was talking to Lisa, and I saw her in the hallway there, and she stopped me. And she goes, I said, Smooth, you know what? Don't think you're bad because you're winning and stuff like that. She goes, Coop, I don't think I'm bad because I'm winning. I'm doing what you did for us with the Sparks. And I said, well, what is that? I did a lot of things I like to think. She goes, Coop, the 2 important things you did for us with the Sparks that I'm using with these guys is, 1, you let us, and I used to ask them, y'all tell me what's going on out there. Y'all are out there. And she said that you don't know how important that is because a lot of coaches just want to see it from their angle and they're going to coach from their angle. She said, but you asked us what was going on, so we were able to make adjustments as a team. Wow. She said, but the biggest and best thing that you did is that you always made us feel good about going out there to play and about ourselves. Hey, you're the best. You better than that player. And, yes, I'm a competitive nature, but it's still about the whole team. And she said, that's all I do with our team, with Joe. She said, I make them feel good about themselves. And she's making them feel real good because they 4-0 and it looks like they're going to go undefeated this year.
Wow. No, I mean, and obviously from a fan's perspective, you think of the schematics of a coach, and designing plays but I mean the motivational piece, confidence piece, understanding the psyche of the roster in the locker room. I mean, that's, to me, what I've noticed way more important in coaching than anything else. That's probably like the most important part of coaching in any sport.
Well, big time. You got to get your players to feel good about themselves and want to play for you. That was the one thing Pat Riley used to do with us when we played, is Riles could get us fired up to where, and we do this as the metaphorically run to the wall type of thing, but we would run to the wall for him, but because we knew he was with the team with us, maybe he was in the back and our heads was hitting the wall and right. He was going to walk through while we busted our heads to get through. It's still that kind of science behind it, or that psychologically motivating technique that you use, is to get the players to play for one, everybody buy in. And she's done that with her team. You talk about plays in the big 3. You've got some things where you can do a 2-man game, or you throw the ball.
You're not running a motion offense,
and you got to cut away and do some motion. That's all it is. But again, it's just about the big 3. Mainly is about having some people that can go. George Gervin this year has a team called Ghost Ballers, and the Ghost Ballers are 3-1. And George was like 0-8. I mean, he was 2-8 last year. But now he got a kid named Mike Taylor. He has a guy named Chris Johnson, I believe. He has Ricky Davis.
Ricky Davis
with the Celtics.
Yeah,
those guys are playing well together. But this Mike Taylor kid, He's probably the most hip hopest kid. He's always dancing before the games, and they make this big intro. But they're playing extremely well. So, and George just sits over there like this. He doesn't move or anything. He sits, and every now and then he'll go. I really do believe he's just moving his mouth. He's not saying anything. He'll go, and it's actually funny to see. But they're playing well. So 3-on-3, the big three, is getting bigger and better, and we're going forward. And this year of all years, we have to be playing a little bad. Like I said, we're 1-3. 2 years ago, we started 1-4, but we end up making it to the playoffs. Playoffs are in the Bahamas this year. And what a vacation. It could be a working vacation to go to the Bahamas. You'll be there for 5 days in Grand Bahamas. And
where are the playoffs usually?
Huh?
Where are the playoffs usually?
Well, the last championship before COVID was here in Los Angeles at Staples Center. So Lisa won it at home on her court. And that doesn't sit well with me, because here she is, a new coach that didn't know what was going on. And here she is, she walks into a championship kind of like Steve Kerr did when he was with Golden State.
But it's an homage to you. She won a title based on your tutelage as her coach. So, she's part of the
ring for it. She got a ring. I didn't get a ring. Yeah, you can pat me on the back all you want. I want the residuals that come with that, man. But that's about the big three. Everybody got the big three coming to your town: Chicago, Milwaukee, Chicago. Either one, we're gonna be there. It'll be in the paper. The media outlet will be bursting high out there. That's for this week coming up. And hopefully the Threes company can turn this thing around. I think by the end of this week, we can be 3-3 with a good shot of going in, or we can be 1-5 thinking about going home early. But either way, I'm having fun. I'm coaching, and get out and see the big three, because it's real special. So with that, we'll end our big three segment. Again, you're listening to Showtime with Coop, insightful BS. And today is just Ari and I BSing each other. And next week, we got some special guests coming in. That'll take a little hiatus a little bit, but we're coming back strong. Let's talk about NBA basketball, all right? And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Busy week with free agency starting, the draft. So, already the Lakers. Let's start with the Lakers, I guess.
Unless you want to start with the Clippers. I'm starting with. I'll end with the Clippers, but we're going to start with the Lakers. Lakers, I thought, did a great job. The hierarchy over there is doing its job again.
All right, let's start with Russell Westbrook, because look, they made a bunch of moves. They lost Caruso. They bring back Dwight Howard, Ariza. But how is Russell Westbrook going to coexist with LeBron? Is this a good move?
I think it's a great move, and I think for this, because I think the trials and tribulations of Russell Westbrook moving around. OKC, Houston, Washington. This can kind of like be a landing spot for him. Went to the UCLA,
right?
Hometown for him. What a great place to just kind of mesh, and where you don't have to do it all. And I think Russ is a competitive player, but he's also a player that want to be recognized as a champion, or at least to play for one. And I think that's, Chris Paul, that would be his, and I think should be his swan song on the way out. Hey, I got a chance to play for it, and never had. So I think Russ will look at it like that. I think LeBron is accepting of that. I think LeBron is willing to hand the ball over, because you know what? Russ still has some energy left in him. He has about a half a tank, because he keeps his body in great shape. And I think they'll allow him to do what he wants to do. He knows he's playing with the other superstars, so he's going to have to share the basketball. But when the time comes, you got a point guard that can go get his, both offensively, on them boards, and can give out 10+ assists on any given night. And I think that's going to be an addition that the Lakers are going to love to have.
I think, you're going to have him on the ball, obviously, at times. You're going to have him off the ball at times when you want LeBron handling the ball. The thing about Russell Westbrook that makes him great also makes him tough. He's just a whirling dervish. You can't scheme around him. You kind of just have to bend to what he does. He is so athletic and so powerful that it's just, he just, when you look at his past experiences with other teams, that's been what makes him great has also been his problem, that you can't devise schemes around him. He's just kind of his own offensive ecosystem. And I think this will be one of the biggest challenges of LeBron's career, is trying to figure out, leadership with him, because he's such an alpha, but also, how to coexist with him down the stretch of basketball games. Because again, there's going to be, you think about 82 games, whatever they play now. They still play 82. They play more or less now.
But they're going to move. No, they're going back to 82.
So, I mean, 82 games, you're going to have the ups and downs of, this game, Russ takes over and he's on the ball. This game, LeBron. But in the playoffs, down to crunch time, I'm just interested to see how they coexist. I think if anybody can make it work, LeBron can do it. But it is going to be fascinating theater. And now, like, there's talks about them bringing Carmelo in, which I know, this isn't the type of player. This is the type of player that Russ is at this point. Carmelo's, a guy comes off the bench and can contribute for you, but it's going to be a very interesting season as they're trying to build the championship roster back up against around LeBron.
And you listen, you in La La Land, Gollywood, you got all the things going. This is going to be a soap opera waiting to, I think it's going to either be for the bottom to drop out of it or for them to win a championship, especially if you bring Carmelo in the mix, which I don't think is a bad idea. I think his time in Portland really has given him a chance to do an ego check. And Carmelo is a good guy, man. He really is. He just wants to win. But again, when you've always been a scorer all the way back from your first AAU team when you were 11 years old, it's hard to change that. But I think he's changed that. It's a great landing spot for Carmelo. Who wouldn't want to be in Los Angeles too? But I think if they were to put those 4 stars together, well, let's just do it with the 3 first with Westbrook. That I think is going to be okay. I think if LeBron could get Kyrie Irving to buy in when he was at Cleveland, but if you saw, he let Kyrie do a lot of scoring, which also helps LeBron. I think he can do that magic, work that magic with Westbrook.
That's a great point.
AD is another in the mix guy, and you know what? The only way AD is going to be that superstar player is he has a basketball, and I think Westbrook knows that coming in. Last but not least, Coach Fogel is going to have a big fun time with this word load management, because now you can sit LeBron 5-10 games and let Russell Westbrook do his thing.
Right.
And all he has to do is just be competitive and competent with AD and the other players they got in. They're going to be successful. So it's going to be fun to watch that.
So let me ask you this. What do you think was the biggest flaw of last year's Lakers team?
The biggest flaw was Rob Pelinka letting Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee get out of LA. That was the biggest flaw. I think they could have survived through everything else had you had one, if not both of those players, because now you don't have to play AD so many minutes. You don't have to live with Gasol shooting threes and not doing anything else. You got somebody that if we make a mistake on that defensive end around the perimeter, you got some rim blockers there that'll block shots or at least intimidate or contest shots. You kind of got half that scenario back and going to get Howard. That's one that's hard to swallow, I bet, for him. But you know what? You got to swallow that pill, Rob, because, again, that was a move that you made a mistake on, and it costed you a championship because now you asking AD not only to score, but play defense and play big minutes, and his body just couldn't handle it.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I'm sure Pelinka bringing Dwight Howard back gives you a pretty good idea of, hey, we missed you last year. We missed taking that toll. And look, I think one of the things that's probably underappreciated is having a guy like Dwight Howard that takes some of the wear and tear off of Anthony Davis over the course of the year, right? If Anthony Davis is guarding a 4 or guard, if he's able to guard not have to guard a 5 and bang inside, and that's one of the things I think was underappreciated about Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee the year before, where it's like, now you don't have that wear and tear every game, having to bang with a 5 every single game, where it's like you can slide Dwight Howard into the 5, have him bang down low. And, and now you're helping Anthony Davis. So I agree with you. They bring back Dwight Howard. They lose Alex Caruso. They bring back Trevor Ariza, Wayne Ellington, and Kent Bazemore. So they're bringing a lot of guys that have been with the Lakers previously back into the fold. How about the loss of a guy like Caruso? And ultimately, Coop, what do you think about all these moves that have been made? And
not going to miss Caruso. I think with the players that they brought in, and if you notice, the significant part about Bazemore, Ellington, Trevor Ariza, all those guys are great role players. They're not going to look to do more. They're not going to look to. They'll expect to fill in the holes and stuff like that, but they won't play out of their position. And I think that's what you had at times with Caruso, with Kuzma, with KCP. You had guys that wanted a bigger role instead of just playing their role. And I think these guys have come in and do a better job. Ellington is a flat out shooter, so you got to play him. I think Schroeder will be helpful too as a backup to Westbrook. And I think, again, those two being in OKC, now you got Schroeder playing his role, and you don't ask him to play extended minutes, and you'll get significant minutes from him for the amount of time that he plays now.
So Lakers winning the title next year?
Oh, for sure. Hands down. You know what? And you got a lot of seasoned vets there. That's the big important thing. Your three key players are big time superstar vets. And if the other guys come in and do their role, they're going to be all right. I don't see anybody that can beat the Lakers once they get in sync and get to rolling. Again, the biggest key is going to be what they do with their defense. And I think they'll be good. I think Westbrook takes times off on pick and rolls, but I think being with LeBron and them, somebody that get after you for taking time off will make him better. I don't see Phoenix beating them. I don't see Denver beating them. I don't see Utah beating them. And now we're going to move over to the Clipperland. You know, I'm a closet Clipper fan, so I'm going to come out the closet for a brief moment, but that's my assessment. Lakers win the championship. And I'm going to tell you how many games it could take them. It could take them 5. It could take them 4. It could take them 7. They're going to win the championship.
Of course. All right. How about the Clippers? They, Kawhi Leonard, is he leaving or is he going to come back? They bring back Nicholas Batum, who's a good piece. What's your feeling here on the Clippers?
Well, before they got Westbrook, I would put money down on it that they were going to get, that Kawhi was coming to the Lakers. Now that's not going to happen. Okay. So I think what Kawhi done now is he's going to assess the situation real good. Obviously, letting his option extend out to where he's a legitimate free agent. And I think he's going to see what kind of moves they're going to make. You got the $114 million on the cap already between Zubac, Kennard, Kawhi, Ibaka, who opted in. And again, that was a major piece there.
Right.
Now, Kawhi was a major piece, but Ibaka was a piece that had they had him, they could have done a little bit more without Kawhi being there. I think they could have got to the Western Conference Finals. But with Ibaka coming back, I think it's going to be good. And I think, you know what? Paul George will finally be able to play, provided they put all the pieces together and Kawhi come back. He don't have to come out and be that big-time player. Now, another special piece to their thing is they got to get Reggie Jackson signed. That kid played great basketball throughout the whole series, throughout all the playoffs. And had they had Kawhi, Jackson's his play would have been insurmountable. He would have blew up really big because now you'd have got a chance to see him hit big shots with Kawhi on the court. I think Nicholas Batum is going to be a big part. They're going to have to do something with him, get him signed, or find a way to get him back. And the one thing I love about the Clippers, and I like underdogs, okay? Clippers are underdogs. One thing I loved about the Clippers play and watching them play this year is you got to see the emergence of Terrence Mann become that's going to be a star player in this league. That kid came through, man. In that Utah series, he showed what kind of player he was going to be. My thing is he's going to have to figure out if he's an offensive player or a defensive player. And in the NBA, you can be both of them, but you won't be good at either one.
Right.
Or you can say, I'm going to be a defensive player and be very good at it, or an offensive player and be very good at it. And he showed that he can knock down the three, but at the same time, he gave up a lot of defensive mistakes. So I think that's going to be their dilemma.
And to your point, just for people that are like, what do you mean? Like you only have so much energy to give, right? So you're not going to be giving full energy on offense and full energy on defense. You sort of have to pick your spots. I think that's what a lot of people say about your game is your offense was underrated because you were using so much of your stamina and energy on defense.
And that's why it was hard to shoot sometimes. I didn't have legs. Throw the ball to me. I'm wide open, man. You say, Coop, you got to shoot the ball. If I shoot this ball, it's going to be an air ball. I know where my energy lies. So I was always passive. But yeah, those are the things, you got to put a lot of energy. But at the same time, just going back to the Lakers for a moment, that's what made Russell Westbrook so great. There's a guy who had energy to score points, to get rebounds, and to give out assists, to triple-double, to break one of the greatest players that ever played this game record. And Big O. Yeah. So that's the decision I think he's going to have to make. And if I were him, and if I can give him any advice, I would tell him to be a defensive player. because defensive players stick around a long time. You look at myself, you look at Bobby Jones, just to name the two of us. John Havlicek, I'll throw him in there too, because John Havlicek was pretty good.
Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman was a rebounder. I don't consider him a defensive player.
He was a great defensive player.
That's why I'm not offended that he got in the Hall of Fame, because I'm not hating on anybody to get in there, but he got in being a rebounder, which is a good thing. You can be, but he wasn't a defensive player. Magic kicked his ass when we were playing with Detroit. Was taking him that first game, wore him out. Dennis who? Oh, yeah, okay. Anyway, I digress.
I love that you're like, Dennis wasn't a good defensive player. One of the greatest offensive players in the history of the league, Magic Johnson, scored on him. Like, of course he did. Magic scored on everybody.
It's like Larry Bird scored on me all the time, or George Gervin scored. But people are saying Michael Cooper's greatest defensive player. All right, you could throw him in there. I'm going to just throw him in there. But I think Terrence Mann has to do those type of things. I would say be that defensive demon for them, because he can do that. He's kind of limited though, because he can only play 1-2s. Some threes might be too big for him, but he has that toughness about him. But I mean, you can kind of do both a little bit. Be a good. I did it for 1 year in '87, knock down threes, and yeah, you can do it for 1 year. But I think you saw a true star come out him and the Clippers. Can the Clippers win a championship if they get everybody back? The luck of the draw, they stay healthy. I think they can compete with the Lakers, and it would be nice to see both of them meet in the Western Conference Finals. Yeah,
something we certainly thought we were going to see this year. The Clippers get to their first ever Western Conference Finals. That is unbelievable. I mean, I know it's like you were on the Lakers when the Clippers were so bad and so brutal, and they had been for so long, but it still is unbelievable that 50, 60 years of basketball, they finally play in the Western Conference Finals for the first time ever. I mean, the Lakers, they've probably been there like 50% of the time.
That was our playground, the Western Conference Final. It was so routine for us is that we didn't even hang Western Conference banners, because that you're supposed to get there. It's like Boston. Boston didn't hang no Eastern Conference. I mean, they have a few there, but their goal was, we're going to win the East. That's a no-brainer. It's about winning the whole thing. So, yeah, that is kind of startling.
Crazy. Let me ask you this on Kawhi. He's got these recurring injury issues. I mean, you obviously, of course, you sign him if you're the Clippers. But I mean, how do you protect against that? Right. Because obviously your ceiling is Kawhi's health, but it's not just a one-off thing. He's got recurring issues with that knee.
Well, I think you do the best you can with him, getting him somebody to be after him. I think load management will really benefit him a lot throughout the course of the season. But at the same time, Kawhi is such a competitor. I think he thinks of load management as being soft in a sense, because he wants to compete and come out there and play. So I think it's a catch-22 situation with him, because you just have to I wouldn't play him on back-to-back games for sure. I wouldn't do that. I think he would travel with the team, but you'd have to give him a day off in between, because they got enough to win, especially the games that you're supposed to win. And nowadays it's almost hard to pick them kind of games because everybody's so good. Because you would say, hey, Memphis, we're supposed to win. That kid, Ja Morant, that boy can play. So he's going to make you be competitive. So I just think they have to pick and choose the games that they play him. But if he comes back healthy as he can be, the Clippers are a team that can contend for a championship.
Did this NBA playoffs tell you anything about the league in terms of, like, if the Lakers don't win it this year, or are as bad as they were in terms of output, right? Like if they don't get out of the second, they get out of the first round or the second round?
Second.
Are we starting to look at this and say maybe LeBron's done through winning championships? I mean, especially given, Trae Young and Luka Doncic. I mean, just the emergence, especially of these guys in the playoffs. You know, it's a young man's league, right?
Yeah, I don't think you could say that. I think the league is just catching up with everybody, because the league has been so bad that these teams now are getting very good basketball players. Right. And they're starting to put the pieces together. So I don't think it's necessarily, and LeBron is getting up there, But that's why he needs help. And that's why this Westbrook thing is, I think, going to be a big addition along with the other people that they got to go with that roster. But I just think it just says a big testament to the league is getting better. Teams are wanting to win a championship. You look at Denver. I mean, the way that they play you very tough, play the Lakers very tough. And they did that. Just think when they get Murray back, they're going to be even that more dangerous. So I don't think that LeBron or the top teams are coming down. I think the bottom teams are coming up, and they're starting to be recognized. I don't think you see Phoenix have a season like they did last year. This past season, I think Phoenix will always be a team that's going to be very competitive. I think they'll go 1 or 2 rounds in the playoffs and get beat. But I don't, you got those dream teams or those wonder teams or those surprise teams that are rear their head for that time. And it's just like Milwaukee. I don't think Milwaukee gets to the finals next year.
You don't think so?
No, I think the East is going to be too big and too tough. I think Brooklyn will work really, really hard. And I think for some reason, the Magic will come together where Harden and Kyrie and Durant all are healthy the whole season. And if they do that, they're going to put many ass whoopings on a lot of people.
I mean, there were a ton of injuries this year. It's funny, though, because it's like that happens every year. I mean, every year injuries dictate the outcomes of seasons. And, some teams can overcome it. Some teams can't. I don't know if there are more injuries this year, but 5, 6, 7 years from now, nobody will remember the injuries. Everybody remember, oh yeah, Milwaukee won the championship, right? Yeah. Like that was a surprise.
And that's true to say. But the weird thing about the injuries, Ari, they weren't like those devastating knee injuries. They were like twists and tweaks. And hamstring is something you can come back off of. It's just a matter of you taking your time coming back. And I think these guys realize the amount of money that they can make. So they sit out a little bit longer. On a hamstring, and they don't do anything. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're getting the rehabbing done at practice and during their off times, but they wait so long that then when they try to come back full speed. No, a hamstring, and I've had many of those. I pulled them. I had a bad one, the hip pointers. I don't know if you ever had a hip pointer, but a hip pointer is something that takes about 4 or 5 months to come back. If you get a bad one, if you almost break the tip of that thing, because if you sneeze at home, you can re-injure that and set yourself back a week. So it was a lot of little injuries that happened through the NBA. And that to me was shocking. Is that load management, wear and tear? No, that's part of being a professional athlete. Football, baseball, basketball. Injuries come with the game.
Yeah, well said.
Well, all right. Big three we covered. Lakers we covered. And the Clippers we covered. I think we know where we're going. And we just want to say thank you to everybody that's been waiting for our show to come back. We always try to give you some very, very productive news. And we have a good time. Hopefully I was able to, for the Laker fans out there, Laker Nation, give you a little bit more something that you can hang your hat on. For the Clipper fans, and especially this guy named Clipper Darrell. You ever heard of him?
Of course.
Clipper Darrell, that guy there.
Is he back? Wasn't he kicked out? He wasn't allowed to be there? Is Clipper Darrell back?
Every time we run into each other, we almost start fighting because he's major smack. Seriously, I love the guy because he's so passionate about the Clippers. And I told him, I said, listen, the Clippers will be a winner when you take off that half white, half red, half blue jacket and put on some regular clothes and be a real fan. Then they'll be good.
We should get Clipper Darrell on the show. We got to get Clipper Darrell on the show. You know what?
I'm going to do that. That's who we need to get. And you want to hear some real sugar honey iced tea talk, Clipper Darrell can bring it. I'm going to work on getting him, all right? I'm going to get him. That'll be. I
want to know, why the Clippers? What was he doing?
Well, you know what? This is what he told me. Because I said, why can't you be a Laker fan? He said, Coop, listen, as a young guy coming up in LA, I used to like y'all. I was like y'all, but you know what? And when the Clippers came up here, it was like nobody likes them. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna be the first one to like him, but I'm gonna get him to tell the story the way he told it to me. And I said, you know what, Darrell, that's a shame because you know we really could use you on our bandwagon. We could. He would have been a good voice for us. But you know what? He loves the Clippers and he loves them passionately.
Yeah. And he's right. There's no Clippers fans, so it's good to have one.
That's a wrap. Again, you've been listening to Showtime with Coop, insightful BS by the Laker legend teammates and NBA legend friends. But today it was just Ari and I, and like two old married couples, we're getting ready to tell you goodbye because that's the end of this show. See you, Ari.
See you, brother.